Now, just like the sandbag fortress, I'm going to base this on the foam core board. So this is a 1/4 inch foam core board. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my piece on top of it. I got a piece that's big enough to cover it. And if you can get one edge to line up to a current edge that exists already, that'll save you cutting an edge. So this edge right here, I'm going to go ahead and just borrow the existing edge of that, which is flat and straight enough. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to take an ink pen of some kind, and then I'm just going to go and I'm just going to draw around the foam, and just draw completely around it. Draw across on the straight edge, around all sides of it. Okay, that's where it's going to sit on there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put a ruler on that, and we're going to go ahead and cut that. So I'm going to go ahead and make a cut. Go ahead and make a cut here. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the knife and follow along this line here. And go ahead and cut the outside edge pretty much like what we've got. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just try to get it really close here. Now the next thing we have to do is we're going to have to cut the trench out of the middle. And this base will sort of act as a guide as where these walls go after this middle chunk is taken out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend my knife out and I'm going to go ahead and cut this trench out. And when you do this, you want to cut right against your sandbags and cut straight down, as straight as possible. Because if you cut crooked, then your trench wall is going to be a little bit crooked. So let's try to cut it fairly straight. I'm just going to go straight down. And I'm nicking the edges of the sandbag a little bit, but if you do, it's not a big deal because there's going to be a wooden plank going up against those. Try to cut them as straight as possible. And then we'll do that cutting this way. And it's sort of a shame to, waste this chunk of foam in the middle, but I really don't know of any way around it. Okay, now that both sides are cut, we need to glue them back onto our base. So let's see, is this how it goes? That doesn't fit, so let's turn it around. Yeah, there we go. See, I've got an exact line. I know where this one goes, right on the edge here. And this size will fit on exactly like that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these down right onto our base. Okay, now the interesting part begins. We need to find a way to make these planks actually fit along the inside wall. Now, it's never going to fit perfect. And that's really the point. Because we don't want everything to fit perfect. We want some things to be interesting and not even all the way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 full plank sections here. I'm going to use a full plank section here. And you notice we've got a chunk in the middle that we've got to fill. For one, I'm going to break one of these. We have so many of these 2-inch planks that we're going to have to use them up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pair of pliers on one side. And if you made this out of dental stone, you may have to take a pair of pliers on the other side. If it's not as hard a material, you might be able to break it with your hand. But I was just able to snap that sucker in half like that. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these here, and I'm just going to stick this up on end. Now that's a little bit too high. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this half piece and we're going to break it about in half. So I'm just going to put some pliers on it, snap it like there. And I'm going to use the taller half. Since I've got sandbags, you notice it kind of stick up above just by accident. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put this plank and let it stick above a little bit like that. Now you see we've got this one on end when we've got kind of an odd shaped space here. What I'm going to do there, just sort of get creative. You remember these angle braces that you've got on the sandbag mold? It's kind of hard to figure out what to do with them. I'm just going to put 3 of those in a row. I'm just going to drop those down here, make the one on the end kind of spread out a little bit, and I'm just going to put a sandbag right there. Now I'm going to finish this off by gluing some planks along here. So take the 2-inch long ones, find about the middle, snap them in half, and just glue the broken end down against and glue them into place like that. Any place that you think it needs to hold something up. Now while gluing this together, I notice I've got a bit of a gap right here. It's not a big deal. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this plank over just a little bit. And you'll notice when I slide that plank over a little bit, I've got sort of a big gap between here now. But you know what? I don't really care because they weren't all that neat when they made this thing anyway. Now when working on the other side of the wall, I can fit 2 planks here, but you'll notice this one hangs over the side right here a little bit. That's a little too long. What I'm going to do is break the edge of this off just a little bit, but I'm going to put the broken end into the wall there. So what I'm going to do is just take this piece right here, and I've got the pliers sort of set up like here. Let's see if I can do this. I'm just going to, there we go. Just going to crunch that off a little bit. And you know, when I did that, I accidentally broke this last plank off. You know, that's kind of cool. I think I'm going to use that. What I'm going to do is glue it where it sort of, I'm going to put this other end coming up. So I'm going to glue it up in the air, kind of like that. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I've actually got a gap there. This upper plank is just kind of going up in the air a little bit. Now this one fits back in where it's supposed to. Now if you look here, I've gone ahead and put a 2-inch piece here, and I've got, you know, this area is a little bit too long. You know, it's possible I could go ahead and break this off and then stuff it in there, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use a couple of these little angle braces that are on there glued back to back that you try to figure out what to do with. I'm just going to glue one of them in the corner right here. I'm just going to glue it sticking out like that. Okay, and then I'm going to glue one of these little half-inch blocks down like that. And that's going to give me a little area that I can set a guy up here, and he's just about the right height to look over the wall and shoot. When making the trench section, sometimes the half-inch foam is not really a half-inch. In my area, this half-inch foam is actually a half-inch plus a 1/16, which makes it a little taller than what your sandbags would be. And usually that's not a problem. I mean, you put a piece of plank up against here, and you'll notice the sandbags are about a 1/16 of an inch higher than the top of the wooden planks. It does, however, cause you a problem if you want to do some decorative things, like to make your sandbags overlap on top of your planks. If you do it like that, you'll see they're obviously slanted downward, and it looks kind of funny. So if you want them to overlap the top of your planks, the easiest way to solve it, I mean, you can cut the foam down and then recess those bags down, but I think the easier way to do it is to simply, when you glue the planks, glue them up about a 1/16 higher, so it's level. Glue them up about there, then when you make your sandbags overlap here, they're pretty much level. And you can do some decorative things like this, and it gives it more of a natural look. I do have to warn you though, if you do make your sandbags overlap onto your planks, you have a lot more masking to do if you don't want to get the over dry brush from the sandbags onto the planks. Now if you do have a gap underneath your planks, you'll probably want to fill it with something. I'm going to use paintable caulking to fill it with. Just be sure it says paintable. There's all different kinds of formulations. Get the kind in the squeeze tube like this so you don't need a caulking gun, and you're probably not going to use that much. Filling underneath the bottom is easy to do, and it gives it a more natural look. I'm just going to squeeze out a bead of caulking here underneath of it, probably about that much. And what we're going to do is we're going to sort of round this over down to the bottom. Now it's actually pretty easy to do. I'm just going to use my finger, and I'm not just going to sweep it along the side. What I'm going to do is push and pull back, push and pull back. So I'm just going to take my finger and push and then pull back. So just kind of wiggle your finger back and forth going all the way around. Just wiggle, wiggle, like that. And if you've got it sort of humped up against the wall, you can kind of pull down a little bit. Just kind of use your finger and pull it down off the wall a little bit, and it'll pull back because it wants to sort of stick to your finger. Then you'll have kind of a ridge across the bottom here. Basically just sort of feather it out with your finger. Just kind of take your finger and pull back onto the flat area and just kind of smooth it out a little bit, and you're done. Now this is just to show you something a little different here. This is kind of a trench end, and of course the planks go against here. But I wanted to use the rounded sandbags for something a little more interesting. Now I can't put the planks against the inside here because it just simply won't fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put them under the sandbags a little. If you can see, what I've done is I've cut the underside straight, and these sandbags can kind of be supported by these planks that are underneath here. So when you look at it down from the top, I'm actually going to have straight planks underneath.